Hello and welcome to Pylon podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brett Lammeyer.
I'm Kevin Brigham.
Today we got episode 8 for you guys. We got a lot planned for today's episode, so hope you guys are ready.
Yeah, nice hodgepodge of a bunch of different topics we got today. So we'll try and get through it quick. Hope you guys stay with us and hope you like it.
First topic we want to talk about is Jonathan Taylor's trade request. Um, Basically, if you're not aware with the specifics of the situation, Jonathan Taylor is very unhappy with his situation out in Indianapolis, wants to get extended. Jim Irsay, owner of the Colts, said, pump the brakes. No one's paying running backs right now. I'm not paying running backs. I don't want to pay you. So we gave him permission to seek trade. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this happen with a lot of running backs right now. A very frustrated running back group in the NFL, not getting paid very much. They feel very underappreciated. It's very understandable, but the running backs just really aren't as needed anymore as they used to be in a pass heavy league. But it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes. I think there's some good suitors for him. It'll be interesting to see how fast this goes too. I feel like the whole Jonathan Taylor stuff has been kind of slow moving up until this point. So I don't know. Maybe the Colts are just ready to get rid of him at this point.
Yeah, I find it kind of interesting the strategy that Ursay went here because he's like telling Jonathan Taylor like, "Hey, I don't want to pay you. I don't think you're worth getting paid." But then he's like trying to trade him for like a first rounder.
Yeah,
So
I know. I think he said like either a first round or like something, a multitude of picks equivalent to a first round or
yeah,
something around there. And I don't know how you say someone's not valuable, but then, as you said, say then that he's as valuable as a first round pick. Like that's just oxymoronic.
yeah, you devalue him and then you try to put off that he is worth the value that you said he wasn't worth. Like very very confusing situation, but yeah, there's a couple teams that are kind of in a little bit of a need for running backs. I feel like that could make the trade. Um, Number one being the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins were pretty. They're pretty talked about, or they were really connected with Dalvin, but it kind of seemed like something wasn't right about that situation, as it kind of just like fell through, and then Dalvin was just kind of like with the put off to the Jets at that point. So I feel like Dolphins made a trade last year for Jeff Wilson, so they're not like too far off from trading for running backs. So I could see them going after JT here.
Yeah, I think out of all the teams that would be interested, the Dolphins would probably be the best fit for him. I know there's a lot of people that have, or not a lot of people, but I have seen more than once, I should say, that the Bears would be interested, but that doesn't really make any sense to me. It's like the opposite end. Like I really think it seems like Poles is kind of has his strategy that he's laid out and is very specific, and it does not feel like getting a running back this year is a part of that strategy.
Yeah, uh, we didn't re-sign Montgomery, which we could have probably for cheap, and I think that kind of rules out any equation of us going after a running back. Now, I'm not saying now David Montgomery is no Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor is very very valuable, and I am going to be monitoring the situation closely because I drafted him in fantasy. So this could have a huge effect on my fantasy team, and I just like really don't see the Bears as like kind of a realistic option for them. Um, Bills, Bucks, and Vikings were some other teams that were kind of mentioned for him, and I think he, I think it'd be like good for any of those teams to trade for him. I don't know if the Vikings would because I think they're going to see what they have in Madison. But Bills and Bucks are definitely two backfields that are looking a little thin. And
Yeah, I'd say two teams that are in two different situations right now, but both I think would be very willing to get a running back. I think the Bills could use a running back to help Josh Allen, and so they're not leaning on him as much. And the Bucks know that they're going to be terrible this year, and they're pretty much tanking for Caleb Williams. So if they were able to get um, Taylor and then drop down, get Caleb Williams, and they come back next year with a Caleb Williams and Jonathan Taylor backfield, that'd be pretty dangerous.
yeah, can agree with you more. I think that's what that's the team that I'm hoping goes out after him. I think he would, just make that offense even better. And I think there's been a lot of questions surrounding the Bills these past couple years. Are after last year, I feel like it was kind of like last year or bust was how a lot of people saw that Bills team. Me personally, I don't think it's that kind of a situation because I think Josh Allen is a dude. I think he's a great quarterback, and I think he's going to be playing for a Super Bowl at some point. But I think getting Jonathan Taylor would help them a lot. I just can't see really anyone trying to pay him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how the running back room for every team goes forward because like Jonathan Taylor is a really good running back, and
No question.
like he probably deserves a first round pick for from whoever he gets traded to. But then that same team who's given up a first round pick, like, are they going to spend money then on to get that take him back, or is this just going to be, hey, let's grab him for a year and try to make a run for it?
Yeah. I think what I saw from McCaffrey is he went for a 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't think Taylor's worth as much as McCaffrey because he doesn't hold that um, reception value that McCaffrey is kind of known for. But yeah. On to our next topic Chicago Bears. Week 2 of preseason this past weekend. Played in a pretty entertaining game versus the Colts. Fortunately, couldn't close it out with Nathan Peterman, but a surprising little guy coming out of Shepherd University, which is a D2 school. Undrafted cat, Tyson Bagent, looked fantastic. I was sold that this guy was going to be our QB2 at this point. Um, PJ Walker has been underperforming, and Nathan Peterman sucks. He sucks. He's not
Yeah,
good.
he's bad. I don't even know why we still have him at this
I
point.
don't
But
even. You know what? I don't.
veteran presence, maybe, I guess.
He is banned. You can't say his name on our show anymore. Um, but this Tyson Bagent guy, he's a gamer. He plays hard. He led a 17 play drive down the field in which we scored a touchdown on. Just made all the right reads. Not afraid to put that thing in his elbow and go either. So I was very happy to see what we had in him, and it kind of seems like this like backup quarterback controversy is like the biggest problem for the Bears. And you know what? It's a pretty damn good problem to have right now.
Yeah, you gotta love the champagne problems being talked about. Um, Tyson's impressing, making a run for that backup spot. Um, and you never know if Fields goes down. He seems like he's a pretty similar style QB to Justin Fields. So hopefully, um, that we won't have to change the offense too much for him. I know PJ Walker is also very similar in style as well, but as you said, he's underperformed, which is very surprising because I honestly thought he was going to be a solid backup, but all of a sudden, this random guy from Shepherd University making making plays.
Yeah, diamond in the rough this year. Um, Other Chicago news going on: the White Sox. Oh, this one. makes me oh so happy, have fired Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams. I'm not sad to see them go by any means. It needed to happen. Now all that's left is Jerry just needs to sell the team. Um, Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams were two guys that have been in our front office for a really long time. Rick Hahn has been our GM for the last 10 or so years. Williams has been with the White Sox forever, so um, probably took a lot for Jerry to finally get rid of him, but he did, which was much needed. And I can finally start to feel some hope in the White Sox. I feel like there's some hope around the White Sox fan base again after this news came out today.
I've even heard some rumors that Jerry might be thinking about selling the team. Um, and I've also heard some rumors about the White Sox possibly making a move, location wise, that is. Very low level rumors, I guess. So nothing to set in stone, obviously, but it would be interesting to see what happens if Jerry were to sell the team. I'm sure it would make a lot of fans happy, though. I don't know about yourself, Brett, but I feel like a lot of Sox fans would be pretty happy with that.
Here's a little fun fact for you about the White Sox. Since 1917, the White Sox have won 3 playoff series, all in one season. All in 05. We have one perfect team. That's it. Reinsdorf has been our owner forever and has not had relatively any success. We have one championship for when I was a toddler. Don't even remember, and we barely make the playoffs, ever. There's definitely something needs to change. But I don't think us moving is the. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think the MLB thinks that's the answer, because to move a team out of Chicago it's a pretty tall order. White Sox still hold a massive fan base around here. It's not as big as the Cubs, and that's probably why it's kind of getting looked past. But I couldn't see them moving out of Chicago, with Chicago being the third biggest city in the United States. You can't really take a team from them. Although I do think maybe a move to the burbs could be in play. I think that would be kind of helpful. Kind of maybe by you.
I know the Cubs were looking at some real estate by me when they were like threatening about moving out of Wrigley, and no one's bought in it's like an old mental hospital that is run down, and it's a huge space. I actually used to play football practice there. Um,
Interesting.
funny enough,
Yeah.
but yeah, no one's bought it yet. They haven't done anything with it yet, so I could see the Sox moving there. I've also heard about them possibly moving into Soldier Field once the Bears move out, which would also be really interesting. I don't really know how any of that would help them, so to say. I think honestly the Bird would be a better idea than Soldier Field, but I'm not an expert when it comes to that.
Yeah. The Sox were to relocate, and you're wondering if I would follow them. It's whether or not Jerry follows them. If Jerry's still there, I will not be there. Uh, if they move out of Chicago, that is. Yeah. On the other side of town, the Cubs own the second spot in the wild card right now.
Well, we did lose today, actually, as we're speaking, so I
Yeah.
got to check.
Reds are up 4-3 right now.
So we might drop right out of it, huh?
Let's see, how's Arizona and San Fran doing? Diamondbacks are 5-0, and the Giants lost. So looks like they'll still own. Looks like they'll still be there. But yeah, Cubs are
Yeah,
playing good ball right now. It's fun to see. Time for the
kind of.
playoff push. Really wish they would have taken today though. Um,
Yeah, it feels like one that they really should have had against a Detroit team that's very bad.
yeah, one thing I did notice about this Detroit team is they got a lot of guys that like are pretty like not like the best hitters, but they got a lot of hitters on that team, so they're kind of dangerous to play. I feel like I saw a lot of guys coming up to play with like a 280 average. You know, that's kind of what you'd look for. Um, but yeah, tough loss today. Just rough start by Smiley, of course, is not going to do you any favors. Pitching couldn't really hold it together. So they need to go and get tomorrow. Tomorrow's a big game for them. Who's on the bump?
Comes after
Uh,
Smiley.
Tyon is on the bump for tomorrow. Who has
Yeah,
been pitching? Who has been pitching better?
he's
So
looked pretty good recently. He's riding a nice wave.
hopefully the Cubs can take 2 out of 3 here from the Tigers as they go prepare their. They go from the Tigers and then they play the Pirates.
Yeah,
And
they got a really easy schedule to end the season, so I'm hoping they can take advantage of that.
well,
It'd be kind of depressing if they weren't able to take advantage of the easy schedule and get into the playoffs.
you might want to eat your words on that one because they play. They got Detroit. They got their final game against Detroit, and then they got 4 at Pittsburgh, which the Cubs own Pittsburgh, so that shouldn't be an issue. But then they got Milwaukee, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Arizona. 4 straight
Every
games.
other wild card team.
Yeah. And then they get a little 3 game set. They get to go visit Chris Bryant and the Rockies. But then they go Arizona, Pittsburgh, nice little 3 game set. There's Chris Bryant and the Rockies again. And then they end the year with Atlanta and then Milwaukee. So these are really big games that they're playing right now. And you really got to I can't stress it enough. They need to win tomorrow. You can't lose the series to the Tigers in the midst of a playoff push.
Yeah, I mean they pretty much got to treat every game like it's a
Must win.
win or go home kind of situation because pretty much any loss at this point could turn things around or end up killing you.
True. True. Um, our final little segment on Chicago sports. It's a little nod towards Stephen A. Smith. Lonzo Ball, he can sit down. He can sit down just fine.
Lonzo, in fact, is able to sit down, in case anybody was wondering or really, really stressed about it.
No, if you heard a report from Stephen A. Smith, it is false. Lonzo Ball tweeted out a video of him earlier. He can sit down.
Very important news. Probably the most important thing in this whole episode
Oh, yeah.
is making sure everybody knows that Lonzo Ball can, in fact,
Sit down.
sit in a chair. One-legged, even. If you see the video, he's doing it with one leg. So
Very impressive.
great stuff there, Lonzo.
How you feeling about the Bulls, what they're doing this offseason?
I'm I'm in the middle with them. I feel like they made some good moves. I didn't really like keeping Vuk. I'm not a huge Vuk guy, but he plays a role, which is nice. I think we may have overpaid him, but I think we have a good plan going ahead. I don't think they'll be great this season, but if they can make some splashes, maybe next off season, they can turn it around.
Yeah, they're kind of in like this like really like depressing middle ground where it's like they got the pieces to compete in the East, but They don't have all of them. And we're a lot farther than we thought we were. And it sucks we lost Lonzo. Because when we had Lonzo, Lonzo was running the
So
offense
good.
perfectly. Bulls were top of the East, looking great. And then he goes down. Of course, it has to be, I don't know, it's Chicago and our knee injuries to our point guards. There's just nothing we can do about it. Like, it just happens to be one of the worst knee injuries of all time. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think after getting Michael Jordan, the basketball gods were just like, you guys can never get
Bulls
another good player again.
can't have shit anymore. That's
Yeah,
I like
it's
that.
all we really, it's all we could take.
But yeah, they're kind of in a weird spot. I'm curious to see if we'll trade DeMar though, because DeMar's going into his final year on his contract. So I feel like if we're not kind of in that like, if we're not like really outside of the plan, I mean, we might just have to send him off.
Yeah, kind of sad because I love Demar. Um, Great guy, great player, but if we're outside of the playoffs, then I feel like that's kind of your best move there. Unfortunately, give him somewhere that he can play meaningful ball, somewhere he wants to go.
Yeah, I
Make
agree.
it mutual.
Yeah. So what do we got? All three first round quarterbacks that were drafted are going to start week one. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very excited for that. Honestly, I did not expect this to happen. Um, I kind of figured Bryce Young would start, and I had a feeling C.J. Stroud would start. But I did not think that Anthony Richardson would get the starting job. But he apparently has been performing really well and looks really good. So I may be eating my words from what I was saying last draft about they're kind of reaching for Anthony Richardson. Um, but I'm excited to see how they do. Obviously, my bias says that C.J. Stroud is going to be offensive rookie of the year this year. That's my pick.
He's looked kind of rough in the
He has
preseason.
looked kind of rough, but it's preseason.
It is. It's early.
Preseason doesn't really show a whole lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, it won't define your first round QB. I agree with you on that. But he does not look the prettiest. But yeah, Bryce Young, he'll be starting week one. CJ Stroud, expect to see him starting week one. Then Anthony Richardson starting week one for the Colts. Um, Richardson definitely was a little bit surprising that he is starting, but the Colts didn't really go out and make that big of an effort to go get anyone else that could play behind. I feel like that's what a lot of people were kind of expecting with Richardson, is that like a team that would take him would be a team that kind of has like maybe a quarterback that they are going to this year, and then Richardson would kind of sit behind them. But Colts are just going all in on him, and yeah, I'm a little surprised because like his college tape, not the prettiest, numbers didn't look the best, record wise, wasn't that great. But yeah, you can't take away the fact that he's like built like a quarterback, like your ideal quarterback. He can run like how you want your ideal quarterback to run, and he's got a absolute rocket of an arm. So
Yeah, I think they're taking the approach of just we're not really expecting him to do good. We're just going to throw him out there, kind of trial by fire, get him some experience, and then hopefully that experience will lead to him improving, and then he'll come back next year better since he has that actual on-field experience.
oh
Something on fire?
yeah, Chicago for you. Um,
Check the Citizen app. What's happening?
little refresh on Twitter real quick. Uh, yeah, so it'll be exciting to see what these rookie QBs have in common. I can't remember the last time that three we're going to
It's a
be
lot.
starting opening day for the NFL. I like Stroud, as you said. I know. I think he needs to figure it out. You know, there's definitely different speeds. You know, transitioning from the NFL or from college to the NFL, and then Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young's a winner, and I think he's gonna always give his all, always give his best. So I do agree with that. And Richardson does look like a specimen as well. So it's gonna be fun to see what these
Specimen
guys.
is a perfect word for it.
Specimen, exactly, an absolute monster. Uh, Kevin, did you? Speaking of Anthony Richardson, actually, Anthony Richardson, Florida Gators, new Netflix, Untold, Swamp Kings.
We've
Kevin, you
been
watch?
waiting for this for a while.
I have been. I feel like this was one of the most requested documentaries I think I've ever seen. You got Urban Meyer, absolute legend, coaching Tim Tebow with a bunch of criminals. Just the most random little mashup of teams. You watch episode one?
I did watch episode 1. Great start to the documentary. Um, some very interesting things that I just didn't realize going into it, watching it. Um, shed some light about college football in general, and coaching and the culture and everything. Shed some light about Urban Meyer and the way that he coached. Some people loved it, some people hated it.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how this twists and turns going forward. But it's where it's at so far.
Yeah, I honestly cannot wait to watch the rest of this. I just finished watching it before we started recording, and yeah, it was awesome. I think it was kind of funny that they were like trying to say that like Urban Meyer invented the spread offense. Uh, that was funny. How he brought it
Yeah,
to.
I was like, that's not really true. I'm pretty sure that was like Brian Kelly amidst like some other coaches as well. But I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Definitely enjoyed kind of seeing a
Or no,
little.
Chip Kelly. Sorry,
Yeah,
just reference myself there. I'm confusing the Kellys. Chip Kelly.
yeah. It was definitely pretty cool to see. Kind of, you know, them getting Tim Tebow and how like big that was for their program, and like what they really do is they really show you how much a loss means in college football. Um, you know, one loss means you can't be won basically. Two losses, you're out of playoff contention. Three losses at big programs, your job's on the line. It's quite crazy how it goes college level, and I think
Yeah,
the documentary really shows that, and I highly recommend watching it.
yeah. I watched the episode right as I got home from work, so I watched it like around 6ish, and I almost put on episode 2, but I know we only wanted to watch episode 1 for tonight, and I was like, I already know I'm going to accidentally spill something or confuse 1 with 2, so I'm like, I'll hold off for now, so I don't say anything stupid. Um,
Yeah,
but
I was almost going to ask if you wanted to push this back an hour and so I could watch another episode. Very entertaining.
great stuff.
Episode one kind of cuts off right after they beat right after week 3 in the 2006 season. So it's like it's starting to get good. Because like I mean like
Shit's starting to heat up.
yeah, you could look up whatever happens, but it's kind of a cool little process to see. I like kind of where they started it. Right when Urban got there.
Yeah,
Um, Big fan of Urban Meyer too. I I know it's probably not the
it's a bit of a
prettiest.
hot take, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, pretty hot take, but you had Urban as your coach for a while over you little Ohio State fan. You think he deserves another shot?
Um, I mean, I love Urban Meyer because obviously he did great things for Ohio State, got us a national championship. Um, I know he has some coaching, some ways of coaching that some people don't agree with. Not everybody agrees with it. Um, so I don't know. I think I do really like him honestly as an analyst with what is it, the Big Ten network he works for? It's the Big Ten network or possibly Fox. I can't remember which one it
I
is.
believe it's Fox.
Fox.
Yeah.
I do like him as an analyst. He actually I don't know. He breaks down the game really well. Even though he didn't really invent the spread offense, he does have like an incredible offensive mind. So I'd love him at the analyst position. It'd be cool to see him get another shot, um, but I don't know if he ever will.
I was really hoping he was going to Auburn last year.
That
And
would be really interesting, actually.
they fired Gus Malzahn. And at first I thought they were getting Lane Kiffin because it kind of seemed like Ole Miss, like their program just like kind of like died out at the end of last year. And I thought that meant Lane was leaving. A lot of buzz on Twitter about Lane being in Auburn randomly. But then he confirmed that he was staying, and then I was like, let's get Urban Meyer to Auburn so that the Iron Bowl is Nick Saban versus Urban Meyer. What?
That would be give
There's
it a
not
few years for Urban Meyer to build up that Auburn program, and that would be one hell of a game.
exactly. I mean, that would just make that like instantly that shoots that rivalry right back up. Urban Meyer, Nick Saban. What more could you want?
Oh yeah. I
Uh,
think now that you're mentioning it, I didn't really think about this at all back with Northwestern, but could you see him make a play there maybe?
no,
No?
no, I don't know why he'd want to go to Northwest. I think the only way Urban Meyer comes back is if he's going to like a big time program. I think Northwestern's too small. I don't. Yeah, I think it's got to be SEC probably. 'Cause I don't see him
Yeah.
going. I don't see him going back to Ohio State. I don't see
No.
him. I
I
don't
think
see him.
Ryan Day is going to be there for a while.
Yeah, I don't see him going to any of the Big Ten the real Big Ten programs. Um, maybe if UCLA wanted to move on from Chip Kelly, they
I don't
could
see
look
that
at.
happening though.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. But they could look for Urban. But also maybe Urban back to the Gators. If Billy Napier can't come through this year, maybe Urban would be interested in going back to the Gators. Maybe this is just kind of like a way to butter him up a little bit. Start generating that hype.
Start Jenner. I could see it. I think for his own sake, I kind of hope he doesn't go back anywhere because I remember when he damn near went into cardiac arrest in the middle of a game and had to go to the hospital, and Ryan Day took over for the game, and I was like, that's just kind of scary. I think he should probably take a break after that happens.
Yeah.
But knowing Urban Meyer, he's not going to want to take a break at all. So if he gets the opportunity, he'll probably take it.
Yeah. Obviously, his time in Jacksonville is something to just forget. And I feel like a lot of the coaching strategies you might have at the Division 1 football level, it's not really going to carry over when you're coaching grown men.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, even Saban wasn't able to do anything in Miami and in the NFL, so it's just very different.
yeah, I just feel like in the NFL, the coaches and players kind of work together a little bit more, while as in college, it's more of the coach is coaching these players. You know, they're they're building these young men, and then they're turning them into the NFL athletes. And I just feel like Urban just wasn't cut out for that as well as he is for a college coach. But I feel like I want to see him back in college football. I think that's where his home is, and I think that I think a SEC program should take a shot at him. I don't see very many names out there that are better than Urban Meyer when it comes to who you want to be at your head coach.
Yeah, especially for an SEC fit.
Yeah. Yeah. We're a little late. Or actually, yeah. So, I don't. Where do we go? Blindside.
Blindside. We'll
Blind.
stick in the SEC conversation as we're talking about them.
SEC controversies. Um, Michael Orr is suing the Tui family. Um, if you are familiar with the famous movie Blindside, it basically follows the life of a young Michael Orr who was kind of bouncing around from being homeless, bouncing in foster care, and then he was taken in by a family who ended up sending or who cared for him and then sent him or then got him recruited to go play at Ole Miss, which was their alma mater. And basically, what was that?
No, I didn't say anything. Sorry.
Um, basically, Michael Orr is now suing the Tui family who took him in because he was under the impression that he was adopted by them, when in reality, it was a conservationship, I think it's called.
Conservatorship, I think, is the main.
Conservatorship, which I just looked this up, basically means that they're in charge of all your financials.
It's the same thing that if you remember the whole controversy around what's her name, the pop star. Why am I totally blanking now? Somebody who's listening is going to know.
Okay.
So if you're listening and you know, pop it in the comments.
Please.
But for some reason, I want to say Beyonce, but it's obviously not Beyonce.
Is it Ariana Grande?
No, I want to say it also starts with a B. I'll look it up, but you go ahead.
Yeah.
Britney Spears. That's who it was. Britney Spears.
Okay. Yeah. It's an interesting situation because I feel like the big thing that like a lot of people go straight to happens to be race, which is kind of unfortunate. Like I don't believe that this has like anything to do with race. And Hugh Freeze was the head coach of Michael Orr in high school, and he's now the head coach at Auburn. So he said that he believes that the family is like innocent and they had the right intentions of everything, and that they would figure this out if like there was like if it actually came to it. And I don't know, I just find the situation real weird because like you got the movie that was made, everything on it, and now it looks like the family is kind of the family looks bad now if like everything they say is true.
Yeah, it's odd. I do think that it is unfortunate that a lot of people are trying to go like straight to the race card on this thing, but I don't think race is really involved. Um, but there has been a track record of rich families, especially in the South, who have SEC connections, who try and necessarily or essentially, I should say, do their own recruiting by helping out players who are in high school and in need in any some sort, and then they're able to kind of influence where they go. That was not necessarily a huge problem, but it was a problem that was happening towards like the late 2000s, early 2010s, especially in the SEC. which they kind of go over that in the movie actually. So it's a bit of a sketchy situation, a little bit, especially given that or saying that he was thinking he was going to be adopted, but then he was tricked into signing the conservatorship.
which is his
And
fault.
well, yeah, it's his fault, but that doesn't make it any better on the other person for doing it. Like it, he probably should have read the papers more, but they're still like that makes them like assholes if they did it. But it is an ongoing investigation, so
I just wonder
I
why.
don't know what the whole facts were on that.
But like, you're retired. You had your full career. The movie's already been made. Why now? Why is this now coming out? Why wasn't this a problem back then? Because I feel like you would know. What was it? All this happened like 13, 15 years ago, something like that.
He actually, I heard, did not find out that he was not adopted until this past February. He had assumed up until this past February that he was adopted, and then didn't learn that it was a conservatorship until February. And that's why it's all coming out like a lot later.
Yeah, I mean, it's said that he hasn't, like, I think he thinks that they, like, just profited a shit ton off him. But he's claiming he hasn't earned a dime. It's an interesting situation. Curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it is an ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think I heard that nobody from either or the Tui family really profited off the movie at all in general.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
which
that's
is just kind of its own,
a whole other issue.
conversation. But
Yeah, the Hollywood writer strike and actor strike going on right now.
yeah, essentially fuck Hollywood, but that's a different conversation.
Damn straight. Another thing, kind of late at talking about. If one fight, we all fight. Spoken words from Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this whole incident, this whole clip?
I have mixed feelings about it, honestly, because I think what Dion was saying has truth to it, but it's also just a tricky situation because it's just a teammate, or well, it's your team fighting your own team essentially. Like obviously, if the situation's different where you're playing somebody else and your teammates get in a fight with whoever the hell you're playing, like you got to back your brother up there, and you got to jump in that fight. But when it's a teammate versus a teammate, um, it gets really tricky, and I don't necessarily disagree with what he said because I think there are times when you need to hop in, and I think what he was saying there is at least try and break it up, if not take a side. I know a lot of people are kind of construing what he's saying and taking it every which way, which is going to happen with Deion Sanders. Um, but also, I think there's also times if when a teammate and a teammate are going at it, and they've been battling. Sometimes you just gotta let them be, and you gotta just let them fight it out on their own, and then make sure they hug each other afterwards, and then move on. So I don't necessarily disagree with what he said. I'm not going to say, oh, he's a shitty coach, it's a bad culture, and agree with all those idiots who don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to football. But I wouldn't say I 100% agree with it.
Yeah, I think it's just the nature of college football, and since Dion is a very big component of using social media, I feel like these clips are definitely going to get released a lot more and more, and you're going to start seeing like a lot more of that program than any other, and so this stuff's going to come out, and yeah, I think the message that he like is really sending though is that like we fight together, So regardless if it's one guy out there on his own, like he's not alone, like he's got the whole team with him, and that's kind of the thing. I think that these just like even these fights, though, I feel like they bring the team kind of closer together and stuff, and I think that he's aware of that. I've heard some stories from like that 2019 LSU team that where our where it was like they were fighting all the time, but like it wasn't because they hated each other. It was just how they were, And I feel like
Yeah.
that's just the reality of college sports, and I'm a big fan of it. I like his reaction. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean I've said it before on the podcast, but with Deion Sanders, you kind of have to take everything with a grain of salt. Not necessarily what he says and what he does, but the responses to that, because the prime effect is a two-way road. The prime effect is going to bring in some people who absolutely love Deion Sanders, and he's going to bring in some people who absolutely hate him, and they're just going to kind of stick to that belief no matter what he does. So you got to take anything you see on social media about Deion Sanders with a grain of salt and kind of make your own opinion on it. But I don't really have a huge problem with what he said. Um, it is just kind of the nature of college football. When you have emotions that high and you're battling each other, shit's just going to happen.
Currently, we're recording this on Tuesday, August 22nd, which means that we got college football just about 4 days, or a little less than 4 days away at this point. So QB controversies has been a big kind of talk as the season kind of nears. We've seen kind of three powerhouse programs: Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama had some drama kind of at that position, which usually you don't see as much from these big name programs. But yeah, just getting right into it. Georgia named Carson Beck their starter. Personally, not very surprised by this one. Beck took majority of the snaps last year when Stetson wasn't playing, and it kind of just sucks for Brock Vandagriff because I know he's been waiting for his opportunity, and I'm kind of expecting him to transfer out now with Beck being named starter.
Yeah, that is the good thing about the transfer portal is that at least he can get an opportunity somewhere else. But I wouldn't be worried if I was a Georgia fan. Carson Beck obviously is a highly touted recruit. And on top of that, Georgia isn't really a QB reliant offense or just team in general. That's nothing against Stetson Bennett. I mean, I have him on my fantasy football team as a backup, so I'm not trying to shit on him, but he wasn't your like flashy quarterback out there. They didn't lean on him really too much, and so I think that the transition's not going to be as difficult compared to like Alabama, who's coming off of a season or really season and a half ish that they were really leaning on Bryce Young and some big games to put him on it or put the team on his shoulders and win those games for him.
Yeah, speaking of Alabama, they got a little bit of, they got their QB controversy going on. Saban's been very tight-lipped on where the QB situation's headed. They got Milroe is who subbed in for Bryce Young last year, but did not really have the best showing. Um, didn't really cement himself as a starter. Um, Tyler Buchner, who's a Notre Dame transfer, he came along with Notre Dame's OC Tommy Rees for this year, so I feel like he could definitely see some action this year. At kind of being the offensive coordinator's guy, definitely a big advantage. And then Alabama's got this guy Ty Simpson, who I hear has been the most impressive out of the three of them from Saban, is what we heard. So it's going to be interesting to see where they're going to go from here. Who's going to get the nod? Whether or not they're going to be able to um, be the one and only guy in the offense. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I would be a little bit more worried about this one than the other two that we're talking about, Georgia and Ohio State, for the reasons that I pointed out a second ago. I kind of feel like Buckner is going to end up getting the starting position. I don't know if that's going to be right out of the gate or if they maybe kind of go with trying two of them out week one. But I thought it was very interesting that they didn't bring Buckner on until after the spring game, which was really telling that they were kind of worried about their quarterback situation. I think that's not really a time where you're going out to grab a transfer quarterback. I think clearly they saw something for spring practices and at their spring game and just weren't convinced yet. So um, I wouldn't be surprised to see Milrow go out there. As you said, Ty Simpson has surprised a lot of people and might honestly even be a front runner. But I think that connection with from Buckner and Reese is going to give him a big advantage.
Yeah, redshirt freshman Ty Simpson is who Saban likes the best. Milrow has the most experience, and I've heard Buchner is not the favorite to get the job. So it's going to be interesting to see. They play Middle Tennessee week one, and I think they'll be very reliant on how that game goes with the QB position before they have to pick one for Texas in week two, because that's a big game that they need to win. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Want to talk about
Yeah.
this Ohio State little problem they got over there? I don't even know if you can call it much of a problem. But
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it a problem. I know there's some Ohio State fans that are kind of worried about it, but with Ryan Day as our head coach, I really wouldn't be worried at all. Um, Up until Justin Fields, Ryan Day had never had a second year quarterback. So he's used to having new quarterbacks around. He's no stranger to a new quarterback coming on for his first year. And if you look at Justin Fields and CJ Stroud's first year in the system, they did just fine. So we got two 5-star quarterbacks battling for the job. And even if they have to take it into week one against Indiana, I wouldn't really mind at all. I got my full trust in Ryan Day to pick whoever he thinks is his best and then develop him from there. Um, I still feel like it's going to be Kyle McCord, but I'm kind of starting to um, flip a little bit, I guess. I'm starting to think about Devin Brown a bit more. I've heard that Brown has been able to show off his athleticism a lot more, and he's been a lot more intelligent and just been better in the system than people have expected him to. And I have seen that Ryan Day made a anonymous poll between all of his coaches on who they think should be the starter, and it was split 50-50 right down the middle. So I'm really intrigued what it's going to be, but I honestly, at this point, I'm 50-50 myself. I think we're going to be fine either way. Um, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
yeah, I think the one thing that Ohio State fans should look at is last year Michigan was kind of in like a very similar spot where they had two capable quarterbacks and they had to figure out the one. Um, and I think if I had to kind of compare them, it kind of seems like Devin Brown is definitely JJ McCarthy. Kyle McCord is definitely a little bit more of the Cade McNamara type. I hear the same things. Kyle Brown is, or Devin Brown is, Devin Brown is a more multi-dimensional quarterback, kind of a guy that can definitely get out on his feet a little bit more, which is kind of like what a modern day quarterback requires. But then you go back to like the Kyle McCord, Marvin Harrison connection in high school. So I'm just surprised that like as you said, like it's literally 50-50. Like I don't think anyone has a better idea of who's starting. I think from the most part, what I see from Twitter, the Ohio State fans seem to be a little bit more on Devin Brown's side. I think that's kind of like the only advantage I got, but like Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Ohio State does. They got Indiana week 1, so they'll be able to play both of them. Maybe give each of them a half, see how that goes.
Yeah,
For
that's what I'm hoping they're doing is they just give each of them a half against Indiana. It shouldn't be a game that we're really worried about at all. Um, so give each of them a half. Whoever is more convincing, that's what you go with.
they'll get the spot for then. Um, Texan Thorne was just named the starting quarterback at Auburn. Uh, this Auburn team is like it's like very interesting. Kind of just like a little what they've got kind of thrown together there. Just talked about them a little bit earlier, and their new head coach Hugh Freeze. Um, you familiar with some Peyton Thorne's game?
Oh yeah, I mean he's a local guy actually. He's a Naperville native. Um,
Okay.
So, uh, somewhat familiar with him. I know he went to Michigan State and transferred over to Auburn, gets the starting job. I don't dislike his game. I think he's kind of similar to like the Cade McNamara. I mean, he has like some legs to extend plays when he needs to, but he's not going to be using his legs a whole lot. But he throws the ball well, reads the defense as well, makes good decisions. So I think it puts Auburn in a good spot to compete pretty well with this year, and then they're kind of going off with a surprisingly good recruiting class. So if they can keep them around for another year or two, maybe they can get something going with them. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. He had a real big regression last year from what we saw in 2021. It seemed like Peyton Thorne was like kind of like a guy to watch out for. Last year, just completely shit on that narrative. Just was not great. That Michigan State team was very disappointing from what I think a lot of people were expecting. Tuck coming. Tuck was not coming. Tuck was sitting at home.
poor Tuck.
Tuck was sitting at home, probably just like reading a book or something.
Still making bank, so I'm sure he's just fine.
Yeah, he's doing just fine. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Auburn's got this year. I don't know. They're kind of like a Colorado, where it's like you don't really know what to expect from the team. New culture, new faces all around. So it's gonna be fun to see what Auburn's got. See if Hugh Freeze is really that guy, or if they should go after Urban Meyer, like we said.
Yeah, well, college football is always more fun when Auburn's playing well. So I hope that they can turn it around. But speaking of another program that makes college football more fun, Ole Miss also with their QB battles. Um, Jackson Dart has the spot, and I'll let you take this one away because I know you're the big Lane Kiffin Ole Miss lover.
Yeah. Um, Jackson Dart looks to be named the starter for Ole Miss. I don't think he really ever lost his spot, even with them bringing in Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard. I think Jackson Dart is. I think it's good for him to kind of get the ball to start the season because I think Spencer Sanders is a guy that you can just throw in at really any point and he'll, you know, keep you competitive. And probably the I think he's probably the top backup in college football. I had to say, which is definitely like not a bad problem. To have the best backup, not bad at all. And I feel like Jackson Dart's got a bit of a short leash here because Sanders is a guy who's proven he can play. He's proven he can play at a high level, and if Dart ain't getting it done, Spencer Sanders will. So
Yeah,
yeah,
this is a position that I could see changing mid-season or early on in the season. Um, two really good quarterbacks who are kind of at the same level, but Dart has the advantage, obviously, because he's been with the program for a year. So it seems like they're going to go with them. Um, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then I don't know what then happens to Spencer Sanders because he might have to transfer again. Uh,
I think it's his last year.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And this
sure he can find a way. I mean, Bo Nix has been a part of college football for like 75 years now. So,
yeah. Yeah. True. You could always find a way. And this our last little QB controversy we had on this is Texas. Quinn Ewers is like, it's not a controversy, but if there's someone with a shorter leash than Jackson Dart, it might be Quinn Ewers. One, you got a Manning backing him up, and then two, the guy's name is what, Malik Murphy, and that dude's an absolute animal too. He's gonna be gone. He's gonna be gone next year, no doubt. He's gonna be. He could get drafted to the NFL next year, or without even taking a snap in college. Like, this Texas QB room is absolutely loaded. So
it
Quinn,
is
like
packed with talent.
I'm expecting Quinn Ewers to put it up in an MVP type numbers, Heisman level play. Because if this Texas team falls short again, he's gone. Like, you got a Manning waiting. Like, I hope he knows that, and I'm excited to see what Quinn Ewers got this year.
Yeah, I expect Quinn Ewers to play really well. I think that chances are he's going to show out this season. And I don't know if he has quite a Heisman season in him, um, but he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12, if not the top quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that Heisman conversation. I would probably place a decent bet on it. But he does have a short leash because, like you said, he has a Manning behind him. And if he comes off to a slow start, that Texas fan base is going to be calling for Manning's name like instantly. And you never know. Sarkisian might be influenced with a slow starting Ewers to throw Manning in there and see what happens.
Yeah, Bama week 2 is going to be a real big indicator on how it's going to go for Texas. But Arizona State names 4-star true freshman quarterback Jaden Rashada as their starter. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Jaden Rashada drama that went on,
Oh, yeah.
but basically, he was committed to Miami and then or he's committed to Miami, got a $9 million offer for NIL to go play in Miami, and then flipped his commitment to Florida because they offered him $13 million, and then he committed to Florida. They backed out of the NIL agreement. He dropped his national letter of intent. Now he's at Arizona State, starting over Drew Pine as a
I
true freshman.
I hope he does great this year.
Yeah,
I'm rooting for him because I feel like he was somewhat taken advantage of and manipulated by people trying to dangle money in front of him. And like I know people are going to shit on him for like following the money, but like he's what 17, maybe 18 years old, and like you put yourself in that position, you're going to be doing the same thing. Like you can't be a hater there because that'd be just really hypocritical. And I think it's more so on Miami and especially Florida for putting that money in front of them and then having to take it away, and making them essentially having to go to a school he probably doesn't really fully want to go to, um, and just hurting this kid's chances of developing and taking it to the next level. So I hope he develops great. I hope he has one hell of a season. I would just love to see that happen to him.
Yeah, Arizona State is a team that now like I'm definitely gonna be like watching this year because this Jaden Rashada kid is no joke either.
He's
Uh,
good.
he was ranked as number 6 quarterback in his class, and he ended up going on to like win the what is it, the Elite 11? Is that what it's called?
I think so.
Like QB competition, which was like crazy because he was a 4 star, wasn't a five. Usually the 5 stars are like usually a lock to win that, and he went in there, balled out, and like yeah, he's had all this drama with like the NIL stuff, and I think it's awesome that that it comes out that he's gonna be starting as a true freshman, which you don't really see as much nowadays, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. And for an Arizona State program that's like just fired their head coach, kind of on their way up, why not give the kid a chance? I mean, he is your future. You might as well play him for a little bit. So I thought that was very cool to see, especially with his whole story and the little NIL drama, because that's something that we hadn't really seen as much, but it's cool to see it. It'll be cool to see if he can bounce back. And then this one, Kevin, big day for Ohio State here as they signed Eddrick Houston, who was a top player in the class. Were you pretty excited about that one, Kevin?
Oh yeah, big signing. This comes after also signing another 5-star defensive lineman. Was it
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago? I think at this point.
Yeah.
Um, I'm really loving how Jim Knowles has kind of turned around our recruiting on the defensive side. We've also got some great defensive backs like Bryce West, who've come in and recruited to Ohio State. So um, I'm excited for our defense going forward, which is something that you don't say a whole lot around Ohio State. Um, I guess
No.
not as often about Ohio State. So if we can get more recruits coming in on the defensive side, we can really become a very dominant team and dominate the Big Ten again, which would obviously be lovely to see. So
Yeah, I
big
saw that.
class.
That was your 5th 5 star, the most out of any other school right now, which is pretty big for Ohio State. So yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
I also had a question for you regarding Ohio State. Do you know what a black stripe is?
Yes, sorry, my computer is like dying very quickly. I started on 90% and somehow it's already down to 5.
Oh, geez.
So I had to plug it in there. But the black stripe is a tradition that they do at Ohio State. So essentially what it is if you picture the Ohio State helmet, you got
Yeah.
that red stripe going down the center.
Mm-hmm.
So when any player that first comes to the team, whether it's a transfer, recruit, whatever, they put a black stripe over the red stripe. And essentially you have to earn your red stripe. So once you earn that red stripe, then you're like officially a part of the roster and everything. Um, so whether it's through great leadership, on-field play, just working really hard, putting in the time, then I think it's like the position coach and then obviously Ryan Day, and as well as like the coordinator makes the decision to take the black stripe away, and then you get like you've like earned your right essentially. It's a rite of passage sort of.
So shout out Arvell Reese today for earning his red stripe.
Yes, stripped him with a black stripe.
Yeah, I saw that earlier and I didn't know what it was, and I figured I'd go right to my Ohio State stores to find out. But yeah, it's a pretty cool tradition. I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun little tradition that they do.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't aware of all that. Yeah. Now
So we
we're
get
gonna.
into week 0.
Yeah. Well, now we're gonna get into our week 0 picks. The fucking finally.
College football is here. We are going to see Caleb Williams play in 4 days.
4 days.
Yes, 4 days.
One second. Let me just one moment, please.
If anybody else is nervous, what's going to happen? I also am. So I don't know what he's doing.
Notre Dame, baby. Notre Dame football is almost back.
Irish.
We are almost back for on Saturday when we play the Navy midshipmen and destroy the Navy midshipmen. Woo! I'm so ready to watch.
I gotta say the Notre Dame fight song is probably one of my favorites. Like top 2, 3 for sure.
Let's go Irish. It's the best. It's number one.
It's number one.
Yeah, so Notre Dame's coming into this game as a 20.5-point favorite. And if you want my opinion on what you should do with that, you should take the 20.5, baby. But I wouldn't just say that without giving you a little context as to why. This is the third time that Navy and Notre Dame have played in Ireland. The first 2 games that they played are the first one, 1996, when Notre Dame beat Navy 54-27. Okay? The next time, 2012, Notre Dame beat Navy 50-10. So I think that tells you 2 things right there. Number 1, Notre Dame's dropping 50. The over-under of the game, 50.5. Take the over. All right? Notre Dame's going to hit that by themselves. They're going to win this game 52-0. That is my prediction.
That's your prediction? I could see it happening. I don't think this game's going to be very close. But I have to say I would take under 20.5 in this game, strictly just because it's week 1. And I know I'm sorry to say that, Brett, but I think that the new offensive look for Notre Dame is going to have some slight growing pains as they move into, well, not week 1, sorry, week 0. But if this was week 1 or week 2 or week 3 or down the line, I would definitely say Notre Dame by 50. But I think you can see some growing pains here. Maybe they win by 17. I could see maybe like a 35-17 game right there. That would be under 20? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to take that as my prediction then, 35-17.
Oh, yeah, you do have an argument. Last year, Navy Notre Dame played at Navy, and Notre Dame only won by 3. I rewatched that highlights from the game. It kind of just seemed like Notre Dame was winning by a lot at half, and then Navy kind of just chipped it away to make that game seem like a lot closer than it actually was. Drew Pine also was the QB, and I just feel like it can't get much worse than that. So I expect Sam Hartman to go into Ireland, which is like a home game, by the way. Literally the fight in
Hartman has to be Irish, right? With that last name.
Is Hartman Irish?
Is Hartman Irish? I feel like it is. I don't know. I could be way off. I'm terrible at guessing those things, but he's Irish at heart, at least.
Looks like Greek. I don't know. But no, I think Navy has got a new head coach, and I think they're going to have their own problems they need to work out playing against the fucking Irish, baby. Number 1 special teams, by the way. Okay. Defense, loaded. Offense, loaded. This game's not going to be close, Kevin. All right, I completely disagree with you. I think Notre Dame's going to whoop them and go ahead, make yourself some money. Take that Notre Dame minus 20.5. And the over, because they're dropping 50 on their head. History repeats itself. In Ireland, against Navy, they drop 50. It's how it works. Period.
I mean, it's just written into history at this point.
Yes.
It's like should be a law of physics now.
I don't want to get into our game of the week yet. We'll save that one for last. But our next game we're going to talk about is Hawaii Vanderbilt. So yeah, this week 0 schedule ain't the prettiest. All right. But we're just lucky to get some games here, you know?
I just want to watch college football at
I
this
just wanna
point.
watch
I was watching college football hype videos before we popped on this podcast.
Yeah.
Just because I needed just something college football now. So
I watched that whole Navy Notre Dame game earlier. uh, but yeah, Hawaii Vanderbilt. Last year, Vanderbilt took down. Oh, actually, before we get into the game, I just want to take some time to have a moment of silence for the families affected by the hurricane in Hawaii right now. All that going down in Maui. I feel like that. It's just a terrible situation you never want to see. People of Hawaii don't deserve that. And I wish them the best. And if you would like to donate to the cause, look it up and donate to it on behalf of us. Thank you.
yeah, I've been to Hawaii once.
Okay. Moment of silence is over.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
I've been to Hawaii once. The people there are absolutely amazing. Just like the most down to earth people that could never get mad or angry or anything. The last thing that they deserve is any sort of weather trouble. So
Yeah.
keep them in your prayers.
Yeah.
Go donate. I think we could probably throw a link into the bio on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
This
throw a
episode.
link. You want to donate to Hawaii?
Make it a little easier on you guys.
Yeah. Donate to Hawaii.
Always good to help out when you can.
It'll be fun to see if they have anything like planned for them in that game. I was listening to Clark Lay, Vandy's head coach. I was listening to a press conference from him earlier, and he said they had something planned. So that should be cool. But yeah, Vanderbilt coming off a 5-7 year last year, which is actually pretty good for them. Their program's on their way up. They whooped Hawaii 63-10 last year. Hawaii was 0-6 on the road. They're 0-4 on the road versus the SEC. Just all time. The line on this game is Vanderbilt minus 18.5. I would also go ahead and take Vandy minus 18.5. I don't really see Hawaii competing in this. I watched the game from last year as well earlier, and it did not. It seemed like Hawaii started off hot. They scored on their first drive, and that just like accounted for like basically all their points right there. But it kind of just seemed like once Vanderbilt like started like putting it together, the game really wasn't even a contest at that point. Demolished them in the second half. It wasn't even close.
I don't have much to add to this. I agree. I would take the over on it. I think Vandy's not going to have a problem.
You're saying you take Vandy spread?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And then we get to watch Caleb Williams, as you said earlier. Caleb Williams takes on San Jose State at home. The only like connection I could find between these two teams was that USC spanked Fresno State last year, who beat San Jose State. So I think that just kind of tells you how we're going with this. It's Caleb Williams' third year, last year's Heisman. Probably going to torch. He's probably only going to play like the first half of this game, if I had to guess. But San Jose State, I feel like the line on this game is USC minus 30.5. I think it's up to 31 now, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like that might just be too high. The USC defense is still kind of skeptical. I think they definitely still give up points, especially since the San Jose State offense is returning majority of their starters. I feel like they'll probably play good as a unit, and I could kind of see them keeping it close. Personally, this is a game that I'd probably lay off just with the line being as high as it is, but it's Caleb Williams. So I figured I'd give him a mention, but if I put a gun to my head, I'd probably take. Ooh, what do you think, Kevin? Before I get my answer,
I agree with you on this one. I think, to your point, Caleb Williams probably isn't going to play the whole game. They may get off to a first half where they're looking like they're going to easily blow that 30 and a half out of the water. Um, but I think Caleb Williams is probably going to come out at some point during the game. I think USC's defense will also have a little bit of growing pains as well in this week 0 with a lot of transfers coming in. And they were allergic to tackling last year, which is not well in college football. It's just a bad formula on defense for any level, but especially college. So I could see them being under 30 and a half by the end of this game, given those two reasons.
all right, cool. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, our game of the week. We need someone to sponsor the game of the week. That's what I was just thinking. You got a company?
That's a good idea.
Got a company that can sponsor us right now?
Game of the week?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Not off the top of my head. Leave suggestions in the comments. If any of you guys own a company, sponsor us.
Sponsor us. Take anything. Game of the week this week is Ohio University, the Bobcats, versus the San Diego State Aztecs, which very under the radar kind of a game of the week here. Two pretty good group of 5 teams playing that normally you wouldn't see play unless it was like a bowl game, per se. Yeah, very excited about this one. Kevin, what do you got to say about it?
I think we got this a game of the week because I think it's going to be the most exciting, closest game for week 0. Personally, I got Ohio slight edge on this game just because it's week 0, so your star players are going to have a little bit more of an impact with not as fully formed teams going head-to-head. And with Ohio having Curtis Rourke, the reigning MAC Offensive Player of the Year, I think that he can maybe put the team on the shoulders and win a really close, tight game at the end.
Yeah. Again, you mentioned Curtis Rourke coming back is huge for them. Both teams are returning their quarterbacks and head coaches, so they won't be complete out of the dust. Ohio was 10-4 last year, and San Diego State was 7-6. The last time these two teams played was back in 2018 when Ohio shut them out. I think it was 27-0. Its final score. Connection from last year, though, was San Diego State beat Toledo, who beat Ohio in the MAC championship game. But the line on this game is San Diego State -2.5. So what I'm going to tell you to do is I'm going to tell you to take the dog, baby. Let's go Bobcats. Ohio University looking like they're set up to win this one on an upset. I think that they are probably the more complete team. And again, returning the MAC Offensive Player of the Year is just absolutely huge. And I expect them to win this week 1 battle. So yeah, my final picks for these games go Notre Dame -20.5 plus the over. And then I like Ohio plus the points. I think they're at 2.5. But why don't you give that money line a little sprinkle too? Make you some money. Vandy, I like with the points as well, minus 18.5. And then I like San Jose State to cover the 30.5. But if you lay off, that wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah, I agree with all of them except for that Notre Dame one. So that's our picks for the week 0.
Yeah, I don't really
4
know.
biggest games, I guess.
I don't really know if I want to watch the game with you anymore, to be honest.
Well, you'll be able to rub it in my face then Saturday when they beat them 55-3. So
Navy's not scoring.
not against that Fighting Irish defense in Ireland.
In Ireland, it's over.
I think our goal Saturday should be to be drunker than any of the fans in Ireland. I think that's a solid goal.
We ended up in a hospital.
It's a lofty goal, but
all for week 0. Navy no.
All for college football finally being back.
God bless. Waiting too long for this to come back. Yeah, I got a little start bench cut for you. I want to hear. What'd you want? Caleb Williams versus San Jose State. Sam Hartman versus Navy, or AJ Swan, the starting quarterback for Vandy versus Hawaii. How'd you manage that if you had those guys in fantasy?
So honestly, for me, this seems like a very easy one. I'm starting Caleb Williams, obviously. That's a given. I'm going to bench Sam Hartman, and I'm cutting AJ Swan.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm cutting AJ Swan. All right.
That's a given.
Yeah. He was just the third best option I had. Maybe Curtis Rourke I could have used.
Either or would have just cut him anyways.
Yeah. I'm benching Caleb Williams. As we said earlier, he's only playing half. Well, he could play a little bit more, but he's only going to play half the game. And I'm starting my boy, Sam Hartman for Heisman, as we were saying.
Hartman for Heisman.
Okay, Notre Dame's coming back, and it's going to start with Sam Hartman at quarterback. So, yeah, there you have it, folks. That's episode 8 for you. I hope you enjoyed. Again, try to do something a little different. We're also in kind of like a new little era with it not being the off season as much anymore, coming a little closer on the season. Definitely going to try to get you a lot more game picks, get you a lot more kind of feedback on that, getting away from more of the preseason kind of side of things, trying to talk a little bit more NFL as that season's kind of coming around. Maybe stay tuned for like a solo NFL pod where we kind of just go on our NFL season predictions, Maybe we'll get that one out before the season starts. Talking Chicago sports too. That's another big thing. Kevin and I are big Chicago sports fans. So if you'd like to hear us talk more Chicago sports, we can do that as well. But yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys as well. As always, subscribe, comment, like, follow, all that lovely stuff. Feedback of any kind is always much appreciated. And let your friends know, let your coworkers know, spread the word around. We love anybody that can help out, getting the word around, getting some more viewers, and getting this podcast off the ground more.
Yeah, once again, thanks. Hope you guys have a great night, day, weekend, whatever. Peace.